Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Sunday night chat tonight. Tonight we're going to be doing a lot of different things. Tonight we're going to be talking to Ron Ruth a little bit at the early part of the night. A little bit later we're going to have Mitch Taylor joining us. In between, we're going to be talking about some of the cool things that are happening with NAMM this upcoming week. It's going to be a great night. For those of you who were watching for these shows last week, we had some unfortunate things happen. We had some food poisoning. We had some tires blowing out on trailers. We've had just a tough week when it came to programming and getting our stuff done. So right now we are getting ourselves ready here. Ron's going to be with us in just a couple of minutes. For some reason, YouTube decided it was going to completely crash their servers, which meant that our software, which connects to YouTube, wasn't working. So for those of you who have played with YouTube a little bit, you got an idea of what can happen. It's not a perfect science. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And right now, that caused me to have to shut down. Then Ron crashed, so he's got to restart, and he'll be with us in just a couple of moments. So hopefully everything will work out, and we will be there tonight. If you're watching on DJN TV, the main website you can kind of click to the lower right-hand corner of that window on the page, and you will be able to go bounce out to YouTube, and you'll be able to see the chat on the right-hand side. If you're watching on a mobile device, somehow you can do it. You can see the chat, but we've got a chat room going on. Actually, Mitch is in the chat room right now. And Mitch is talking to people and sharing all sorts of great information with them. And now, the one, the only, the man who would have been Walt Disney before Walt Disney was Walt Disney, Ron Ruth. Good evening, Ron.
Hey, John, how are you? I've lost you, man. You were there. Now you're gone.
YouTube decided it was going to crash on us for a bit there. And now, we are back.
Oh, there you are. Yay.
Yay, we are back. We are back. There we go. It's up, it's running. We are good to go.
I love it when a plan comes together, don't you?
We were about 2.5 minutes late, so that wasn't too bad considering what we've been through to get to this point. Oh, I'm going to switch this over so this is a little bit bigger. There we go. Now we can see a little bit better. So Ron, tonight we want to be talking about how to make your events memorable, how to make your events something that people will be talking about. Your referral base will just go crazy. And I think a lot of that can stem around a session you're going to be teaching, workshop you're going to be teaching in Las Vegas. But for those who are wondering, why they should basically listen for the next half hour or so, why is it important to make your wedding events memorable when it comes to the referral side of it?
Well, obviously, the referrals is the most powerful form of marketing and the cheapest form of marketing any DJ or actually any wedding professional can have. So the more you can do to exceed client expectations, the more likely you are to get referrals. And as I said, the referrals are cheap. That's cheap marketing. So to be able to get a continual flow of referrals coming into your business means you have to spend less on advertising on like The Knot or Wedding Wire or any other little publication that's out there.
Now, back when you and I were younger and we were doing our first shows, those first 10 years or so, we were getting referrals. Now, there's guys out there saying, like, I do a great job and I get referrals all the time.
Yeah.
As I look back at those referrals that I was getting, I think to myself, were they referring me because I was talented or good or making memories, or were they referring me in many cases because I was probably kind of cheap?
Well, 10 years ago.
Well, our first 10 years.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I would have been in the business 15 years. So, to be honest, I think really the idea of putting more into a wedding reception than just playing music really, in my opinion, didn't come about until probably after 2001, 2002, somewhere in that general area, when more and more people started talking about the possibilities of things that you could do. Randy Bartlett, an excellent example. I can remember going to a Mobile Beat conference in Vegas, I'm going to guess 2002, 2003, and listening to him speak for 45 minutes. And I was blown away by some of the things that he came up with on how you could, not only how you can make a wedding reception more fun and memorable, but just pointing out all the stupid things that DJs do. And I hope nobody's offended by the word stupid. I realize that may not be politically correct, but really that's what it boiled down to is that showing how, pointing out this, and I was just like everyone else. I was doing it the only way that I knew how, because nobody taught me any better.
Yeah. And I think that was a big thing when we were starting out, that education wasn't there. And even when we went to the first few conventions, while there was education there, I still walked out, and it took a long time really before the concept of making something memorable really started to sink in.
Well, John, that was because in the early 2000s, in our industry, I don't know about you, but even for me, I already knew it all. So it was going to teach me anything. And, I already knew it. I mean, there wasn't anything before 2001 at a Mobile Beat conference or any other conference that anybody could teach me that I didn't already know how to do. I mean, that was just the ego of the day. But once I started meeting people from across the country and getting and developing relationships and mentorships with people that to this day, I still carry on with people I trust, people that knew far more than I did. And I realized that what they were telling me wasn't to test my ego. It was actually to help me. They took a sincere interest in what I was doing. Then I started realizing, oh yeah, maybe I should start listening and following their lead.
And that was a tough jump for us to make when we started to do that. And it's like, oh, maybe, boiling it down, maybe I don't know it all.
Well, and I think, and if you stop and think about it, doing more meant that, if you're only charging $500, how much do you want to do? I mean, seriously. I mean, that's the mindset of a lot of people. It was certainly my mindset back in those days, is that for $500, how much time do I want to invest in this wedding reception?
Oh, for sure.
If I'm going to invest time, then the next step for me is going to be to raise my rates and continue to raise my rates with everything the more time I invest at a wedding reception. I mean, in those days, I might have invested 4 to 5 hours in the event, possibly an hour or 2 hours in preparation. Today, a wedding reception to me is a 45 to 60 hour event. It just depends. I mean, it just depends on what the bride and groom want.
Yeah, it's definitely changed from when we first
Oh, yeah.
first started, and I think the expectations on the client side have changed, not across the board, not in every. There's still going to be some VFW type events or some backyard. I mean, I've got a young lady who is doing a backyard event next summer, and she's experienced the things, but in her area, her mind, that's not what she wants, because she knows a lot of her friends have never seen or heard anything like that, and she goes, "Yeah, I don't think we want to." So while not everyone has that, I think you have more people who are seeing things on YouTube and thinking, "Wow, I want a helicopter to land on the top of my dance reception hall too."
But see, that's where the misnomer comes in, is that in order to make a wedding reception fun and memorable and unforgettable, memorable, that was redundant. But in order to make a wedding reception fun and memorable, it doesn't mean everything has to be epic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's just doing little personal touches along the way, things that bring out the bride and groom's personality and style. It doesn't have to be a helicopter landing on top of the venue, which that would be pretty cool. But it can be just small little incremental things that happen throughout the course of an evening to make it something that the guests will walk away and really connect with and enjoy.
Now, can you give us an example now for those who have not, maybe there's some younger DJs out there watching this right now, and they're like, okay, I know I need to move beyond just playing music. I can mix really well, but I need to do something that will make it, and I'm going to use the phrase, customizing it more to the bride and groom. Can you give us an example of what that would look like at an event, or one example?
Well, one great example, and I didn't come up with this. I mean, this is Peter Mary's thing, but as an example, I'm a big believer. Let me stop for a second and let me fill in some blanks here. I'm a huge believer that a wedding reception is like a 3-act play or a movie with a very distinct beginning, middle, and end. So it's 3 acts. Okay? And the beginning act is where everyone is introduced to the supporting cast and to the primary characters, and so that who these people are. So one of the great ways of really incorporating a personal touch in the very beginning of a wedding reception is through personalized introductions, which is something that I do at almost every wedding reception in one fashion or another. It connects the dots for the guest as far as what the relationship is between the couple and the wedding party. I mean, normally, if you're just announcing a wedding party, you're just going to say, well, this is Bob, and here's bridesmaids Sally Joe and Bob Johnson, and then come two people. The guests, they don't know, and they really probably don't care, and most of the time they're applauding out of courtesy.
Yep.
And so, but if you say a little bit about Sally Joe, how she came to know the bride, whether, they went to the same schools together, played on the same baseball, basketball, volleyball teams, fraternity, sorority sisters, summer camp, whatever the case may be, if you can kind of fill in the little blanks here, then you're connecting the dots of how these people know the bride and groom. And not only that, I do a workshop called 5 Fun and Easy Ways to Wow Your Wedding Guests for couples in the Kansas City area. And the way I explain it is, think of it as introducing two groups of friends together. You wouldn't just, or two friends together. I wouldn't, as an example with you, John, introduce you to a friend of mine and say, hey, this is John Young, and then walk away. I would say, hey, this is John Young. John is my publisher with Disc Jockey News. He won you made the Hall of Fame. I mean, I would fill in the blanks a little bit so people would understand the connection between us. And that's the same thing's true with like personalized wedding party introductions. Anything that you can do, whether it's personalized wedding party introductions or love stories or just about anything that connects the dots for the guests, that engages them, that makes them want to pay attention to what's going on, that in and of itself is a personal touch. I mean, most wedding guests are so accustomed to seeing the same wedding reception over and over and over again, the ones I used to do 15 years ago, where it was always the same. You just went through the motions. They're thrilled. If they see something different taking place, then their attention is going to tune in. Another great example of that is if you think of going back to the movie example. Have you ever watched a movie where in the first, you put in this movie with high expectations, this is going to be the greatest film ever, and 3 minutes in the movie you go, oh my God, what is this? So you do one of two things. You either turn it off, or you let it play and become background noise while you go off and do something else. Nobody ever jumps to the end of the movie to see if it's any better than the beginning of the movie. Same thing's true at a wedding reception. Nobody's just going to hang around to see if the end of the wedding reception is any better than the beginning of the wedding reception. So you have to engage, you have to entertain, you have to keep the people's focus. And that's part of the process, everything leading up to the party itself. And if you've done your job, if you've been successful at keeping them engaged and focused and entertained, when the party starts, you don't have that empty dance floor for 10 or 15 minutes or nothing but female dancers out there, girls out there dancing while the guys are getting hammered enough so they'll come out and finally dance. So that was a very long question to your very long answer to your short question. But I get really passionate about it because I think I have a true passion for weddings, and not only for a passion for weddings, it's seeing a couple, knowing that you've made that impact on their day, that you have because you are like the biggest gift that somebody's bringing to the wedding that they're going to take home with them. You're that memory that they're going to take home with you. What memory do you want to be? Do you want to be that memory of, oh my God, that guy? Or do you want to be, wow, that wouldn't have happened had it not been for this guy or this female or this girl DJ or whatever?
Right. I want to jump back, Ron. I'm going to kind of put you on a spot with this now.
Uh-oh.
when you were talking about the custom introductions and doing a little bit more of that, what I'd like you to do is I just want you to use your improv skills and give me a mock introduction of
Oh God.
just to throw something together so people who have never heard a custom introduction and
You
pick
know,
two people out, like you're going to introduce one bridesmaid and one groomsman, just to give us a level of feel for what that would look like. So, did I buy
could
you
I
that?
actually could I actually read one? I have one right here at my fingertips. Would you mind if I pull it up?
And again, this was
I
not set up, ladies and gentlemen. I
I
literally am putting Ron on the spot with this one.
yeah, and Peter could do it. I'm not
You've
that.
got one there. I want to give the viewers an idea of what a custom introduction, because most of us have been to high school prom or something like that, where it's Bobby Sue escorted by Mike Johnson, and it's Stephanie escorted by that's we've experienced that, but a lot of people haven't experienced that customized introduction. So if you've got one there, give us
Okay,
give
all
us a
right.
shot.
So as an example, this was only one maid of honor and one best man. The best man was the brother of the groom. Maid of honor was a friend of the bride. And these included drops as well, sound drops. So
So
just
I would like you to make the sound drop sound at the appropriate time, please.
oh, I will. Okay.
Let's see if
So
this works.
So Jesse Schroyer is the maid of honor and met Samantha during their high school days when they were both Subway sandwich artistes. Not artists, but artistes. There's a huge difference.
Okay, so now are you give us exactly how you'd say it on a microphone.
That's how I said it.
Okay,
I
okay.
said it. Artiste, not artist, artiste. Big difference. Today, she's a single lady living with her dog Rosa in North Kansas City, where she's a yoga instructor and a cheerleader choreographer. And that's where a drop came in and went VICTORY. Victory, victory. It's our cry. I've been told that Jessie is known to strike up a conversation with any stranger in the room, but when the party starts, she may just say, and another drop was, "Shut up and dance with me." So there was a music sound drop there. Brad Harms is the best man and Ross's former roommate. Everybody, ooh. He lives in Lawrence, Kansas, and is a fan of the Royals, Chiefs, Jayhawks, and of course, the Jetmore Longhorns, which is off script. Most of the people knew it. It's like a town of 50. And so there was cows mooing when I played that. He's best known for his death-defying driving skills and for consuming blazing hot chili peppers on a bet. It's hard to believe that a guy who looks so much like his handsome twin brother is still single. Of course, it may be time for him to reconsider his pickup line. And the drop was from Napoleon Dynamite, which is, "Are you drinking 1% or 1% because you think you're fat? Because you're not. You could actually be drinking 2%. So that's... So, I mean, and I haven't rehearsed this in a while. I mean, I did this a few months ago, but that's an example. And I want to make sure I learned how to do this through the grand Make It Grand workshop Peter, Mary, and Liz Daly teach. And I would highly suggest for this that if you ever have an opportunity, if you want to do something really fun, it's a really intensive 2-day workshop, and but you're able to do really fun introductions like this. If you can get the guests laughing in the beginning, you have their attention.
Very much so.
If only a couple people, you may not in the very beginning. Again, people are so accustomed to wedding receptions being the same. But if you can make just a few people laugh in the beginning, those who may not have been paying attention are going to want to know what everybody's laughing at. And then they're going to focus in on what's going on. I think that's a Randy Bartlett trick I learned.
I think it's something that's been kind of all
interwoven. Do you notice how I'm throwing around names?
You're dropping names. You are a name dropper.
I haven't gotten to Bill Herman yet, or Jason Jones, or Mitch.
Mitch is in the chat room, and yeah, he's just waiting for us to go MitchTaylor.net. Yeah. That's what he's waiting for. So Ron, now, okay, so we've talked about introductions. Let's talk about some other spots in which, and we won't really go into detail too much, but other spots where you have done some customizing to kind of fit the couple. And then I want to circle back to really looking at the the love story concept and such.
Okay.
So other spots in which a DJ or entertainer can customize for the couple.
Well, these things aren't necessarily specific to the couple, but they're just fun little activities that, again, after you get past the introductions and you get past like the welcome. Well, okay, let's extend the introductions for just a moment. One of the things I encourage, a lot of times at a wedding reception, once the bride and groom are introduced into the room, they come in and they have a seat, and then we have a blessing, and then we're on with the meal and that kind of thing. That's traditional.
Right.
What I always encourage my couples to do is to extend the personal touch that they just created with the personalized wedding party introductions. By the way, all the information that I gave here, these introductions that I just read, all the information comes from the bride and groom. And on the introductions, typically I will share with the couple in advance what I'm going to say about their wedding party. So there's never any doubt as to whether I'm going to embarrass anyone or anything like that. But I usually encourage them to extend the personal touch that they created. So when the bride and groom are introduced in the room, I give the groom a mic in the hallway so that when they come in, after the applaud subsides, they can welcome their guests. And I do something a little bit different than most DJs. I even encourage the bride and groom to introduce their parents. And the reason I do that is because, every DJ is perfectly capable of introducing parents. It's all a part of DJ 101. But for me, I'm just introducing names. For a bride and groom, they're actually introducing their parents. There's a huge difference in the dynamic of that introduction, of them introducing their parents and having them stand up and saying something about them. And that's also a great transition if the father of the bride or the father of the groom or both want to do a toast. I don't bring I encourage my couples not just to bring the father of the bride up if he's doing a toast. I encourage them to bring up both sets of parents. And the reason for that is because a wedding day is the bringing together of two families. And if you have both sets of parents flanking the bride and groom, the photographer is going to get the reaction shots of what the parents, the expressions on their faces as the toast is being told. But moving beyond that into things that, again, just activities to keep people involved. Because once you have their attention, it's kind of like sales. It's much easier to keep a client than it is to lose them and try to get them back. Same thing's true with a wedding guest. It's much easier to keep their attention than it is to lose it and then try to regain it. So like during dinner, I'll encourage maybe inviting people to go to the buffet by naming all the tables after a fun song. And we'll create table cards that read something to the effect of you're seated at Macarena. When you hear this song, the bride and groom, usually by name, Sally and Joe invite you to dance your way to the buffet. And we have some fun with making. Or we may do bride and groom trivia. That's another way of extending personal touches, where I have them provide me with questions. And if you answer the question correctly, then you and your table are invited to go to the buffet. So, there's just all sorts of little things during the course of dinner. If it's a plated meal, one of my favorite activities of all time is a kiss for a kiss. But I learned from Bill Herman, I think, in the Entertainment Experience Workshop, it doesn't necessarily have to be a kiss for a kiss. It can be, you can turn that into a scavenger hunt. You can turn it into any number of things that people have to do. You surprise them with, okay, so if you want to see the bride and groom kiss, this time you have to sing a song of love. And once you've done that, then the bride and groom will kiss. Or come back with a square of toilet paper and bride and groom will kiss. Or you have to kiss and the bride and groom will kiss.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of little things to just keep people engaged throughout the course of an event.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? I'm
No,
sorry,
that
I
does.
kind of went off on all sorts of tangents.
You did, but that's okay. You gave in that little sequence, as you were going through, I posted that there was a great tip in there for those who hopefully caught it, and we'll just leave it at that. There was what I would refer to as a money tip in there. So you done well. It was a good one for people who don't use that idea. We'll come back to some other time. Some questions we talked about on Act 1. Now
Yeah.
they're wanting what Act 2 and Act 3 is. So let's talk
Well,
about Act 2 and Act 3.
Act 2 is usually dinner. And Act 2 is also leading into Act 2 is dinner. It's the toast. It's the cake cutting. And then into the love story, which leads into, for me, a love story leading into the formalities: first dance, parent dances, and then anniversary dance if they want to do that, which I again is something I encourage. So that's Act 2. Act 3, of course, is going to be bringing everything together. The climax of the evening is Act 3, which is, of course, the party. So that's kind of what Act 2 is all about. Is that, and actually, you could actually say Act 2 starts with the cake or the toast. Again, I go back to, and I think it's important, John, that because I hate these arguments on Facebook or on forums and every place else. There is no right way or wrong way to do things. There is only what works best in your market and for you and your couple. So if you agree with me, fine. If you disagree with me, hey, I'm good with that, because there's a lot of things other people do that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing. So as an example, I go back to cake. I encourage the couples to cut the cake right after all the introductions and the toasts. And before the blessing. And the reason I do that is it just helps later in the evening for the transition of everything. And on top of that, if I do the cake cutting later after dinner, then what happens is that while the love story is taking place, or while they're in their first dance, people are getting cake rather than paying attention to those things. And so I want them focused on what's going on in that moment and not worrying about, I got to get across the dance floor to get this piece. I got a great story to tell you. Have you ever worked a wedding reception? Have we got a time for me to tell this story?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a great story. I even wrote a blog about it. It was called The Great Cupcake Rush of 2000, whatever year it was. So the very first wedding reception I did with cupcakes had to be about 5 years ago. And I was blown away when I got to the reception hall and I saw it was a very nice hotel, and they had tiers and tiers of about 12 different varieties of flavors of cupcakes. And I mean, wow, beautiful display of cupcakes, right? And the bride and groom had just a simple little personal cake that they were going to cut for the tradition and for the photos. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when it never in my wildest dreams occurred to me. I mean, again, 12 varieties of flavors of beautiful. We get through the little cupcake thing. I believe I told the love story leading into their first dance. And the guest, I couldn't believe the guest. They were walking across the dance floor during the first dance because they didn't want to miss out on their favorite flavor of cupcake. I could not believe, back and forth across the dance floor to get to the cupcakes.
Oh my.
So when the first dance was over, it was time to go into the father-daughter dance. And I went to the bride and I said, you know what? We're going to wait, because I'm not going to have more people walking across this dance floor. I mean, there was no way of shutting it down. It was not like I could go, well, hey, guess what? We're going to shut cupcakes for a while. I mean, because by the time the first dance was over, there was a line around the room waiting to get to the cupcakes. And of course, they had bags for take home. And so people were filling up their bags. And oh my God. So after that happened, just with cake cuttings in general, I started really watching what happens after a cake cutting. And if you're doing the first dance after a cake cutting, or you're doing a toast after, you do the cake and then the toast. All right. Well, during the toast, they're already starting to portion the cake. So by the time you're into the first dance, people are thinking cake. I'd much rather have them have the cake available to them as a dessert at the end of dinner. And that's the way I approach my couples with it is, look, this just, and I'll even tell them the cupcake story. You know,
Yep.
do you really want people in line for cake, or do you want them paying attention to what's going on? We
Yep.
want them paying attention. So
Funny.
that's my story.
Funny.
So I know I got totally off
You
the
were
beat.
outdone by
I,
cupcakes. Cupcakes won, Ron nothing.
yeah, I know. I know.
You're
I
just
was so I was so I was so ticked off at I mean, it just blew me away that guests could do that. I was like, wow,
wow.
all
What do
that
you
for
do?
a cupcake. Thank goodness I had put mine aside before they all made the rush.
Yeah, you're the first one over there.
Yeah,
Now, ladies and gentlemen, their first dance.
I was cutting in line.
Yeah.
I had the mic with me just in case I needed it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, people.
I'm kidding. Yeah, they delivered it
Yeah,
to my booth.
don't text or email or send me Facebook messages. It's a joke.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so Act 2 then takes us basically from that time through. Now, does that take where does?
Formalities.
Okay, now take Act 3.
Act 3 is the party. That's when it all comes together. That's when everything that you've done to focus the attention on what's happening, that's the payoff, is the party. And if you can get people out there partying right away. Now, you know, here's another money tip, I think you called it.
Yep.
I cheat when I get people to the dance floor, and I think I've talked about this before. I encourage my couples to do an anniversary dance, and I do an anniversary dance totally different than most DJs do an anniversary dance. Most DJs, well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of DJs will try to get everyone to the dance floor and then move them away until the only couple remains standing is the longest married. I do it in reverse. I start with a couple that's been married the least amount of time, which of course is the bride and groom, and then we build the dance floor based on how long everyone is married till we get to the couple that's been married the longest. I position my couple on the corner of the dance floor, side of the dance floor, closest to that table, so that I know that when that couple comes up, my couple is right there. Photographer is there, videographer is there to take the shot. I don't have the bride and groom in the middle of the dance floor. And I'll, you know, as most DJs might do you have any sage words of advice that you'd like to share with the newlywed, how long you've been married? But here's the great thing, is after that's done, this next song, we want everybody to stay on the dance floor, but this next song is just for the two of you, but we want everybody to stay on the dance floor. Everybody in that room is on the dance floor, and they're dancing, even if it's a slow dance. Now, the idea is to keep them there. So the transition through music at that point is to try to keep people on that dance floor. And you've taken away the stigma of a dance floor. And I think Todd Mitchum, see, I'm throwing out more names.
Yeah, you are. You're just dropping them, man.
Todd Mitchum, which those of you who haven't been around in like 10 years, you're going to see Todd, I think, for the first time. He's making a comeback at Mobile Beat this year. But I think Todd was the one that talked about, one of the workshops I went to with him was, you know, a dance floor is a vast, open, empty, scary place to most guests. And you have to be able to remove that stigma. My way of removing that stigma is through the anniversary dance, because now everybody has been on it. They don't have to worry about being the first on the dance floor, because everybody's been the first on the dance floor now.
Mm-hmm. That helps tremendously.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. Not quite as good as you going out there and everyone come and dance with me because I'm Ron Ruth, but
yeah, I mean, and most people go, who?
What's that?
Well, I mean, it's just, to me, it just, I don't like, that first song that you play at the beginning of the night. I don't care. I mean, maybe I've been doing this 25 years, and I can guarantee if I don't do an anniversary dance or something to prime the dance floor, I don't care what the first song is I play at the beginning of the night. I'm not going to have a full room of people on that dance floor.
Yeah.
Happen. If I do it with an anniversary dance, guess what? I got a full room of people on the dance floor.
Exactly. And that really, as you say, when it warms up, breaks the dance floor, however you want to look at it,
right?
It's gold. Really,
right.
Really it is.
And again, no right way, no wrong way. It's just what works for me. And if it works for you, fine, use it. If it doesn't work for you, hey, that's fine too.
Yeah. Good stuff. Before we jump into getting into the love story and talking about the AudioMazing Love Story, 3 acts. Which one in your prep time, which one is the most time consuming for you and why, and which one is the least and why?
Well, the party segment is usually the least. I mean, that one, nobody can pre-program a night. I mean, you have a pretty good idea of the age group of the guests that are going to be there, but as far as trying to pre-program music, it's not something I invest a whole lot of time in.
Sure.
I program based on who's on the dance floor at any given time, so that's where the music is going to go. As far as I would say the longest amount of time for me is spent in typing up and sending out itineraries for the entire evening, because my couples get an itinerary after our first planning meeting, and then as they make changes, that itinerary is updated. They're sent copies. Then all of the itineraries are also sent to every other member of the wedding team: photographer, videographer, caterer, anybody else that's behind the scenes. So there's a lot of time in that. The script writing for wedding party introductions for me is sometimes it's really time consuming, sometimes it's not. It just depends on how easy it is to write for somebody.
Yep.
Sometimes I get very little information about a couple, and as much as I try to pull more information, this is all you get. And that's fine. I'll work with what I get, but that for me sometimes is a struggle. And then of course the love story, and the writing the love story, but also with the introductions and the love story, I would say there's a tremendous amount of time that goes into rehearsal on both. I have an associate that works with me, so that when it comes to the drops, as an example, for the introductions or for a love story, she's the one that's hitting those drops for me. I don't have to do that. All I'm doing is working off the script. So we have to get together and rehearse. We rehearse both love story and workshop. Love story and workshop. Love story introductions.
Yeah.
So as far as time, those are the two things that are probably three things that are the most time consuming for me. Plus I invest, I meet with my couples on 3 occasions before their wedding. I attend the rehearsal as a part of my service. I meet with the wedding party at the rehearsal for about, 5 to 7 minutes prior to the rehearsal, just to go over the events of the day with them the next day. It does a couple of things. First, it relieves me. It saves me. If I look at a wedding party as a supporting cast, and they want the wedding day to be just as much fun for the couple as the couple wants it to be, but it's a lot easier for them to make that happen if they understand their role, what their part is. So I'll give them all like a small itinerary so that they have an idea of how everything is going to occur the next day. And then it also puts me, and I hate to use the word authority, but it puts me in a position where if I'm doing this in front of the bride and groom, it's kind of like the next day, people just automatically follow my lead. They know that I'm the go-to guy.
Sure.
If they have a question, if they need something, they know, come to me, and I will work with them or deal with whatever the challenge might be that comes up at a given time. So you don't have that awkward time when it comes time for the best man's toast. You're out looking for the best man because he knows when he's supposed to be in the room.
Yeah.
Even I do the same thing with parents at the rehearsal. I give so that they know when their toasts are going to take place, when is dad going to dance with his daughter, when is mom going to dance with their son, those sort of things.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the chat board. They're talking about some of them have had different experiences with or people kind of giving them the, kind of questioning eye that why would you want to go to the rehearsal, which of course you've just covered the benefits of that.
For me, it's a personal look. I'm all about client experience, the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I quit calling my clients clients. I do it here, but when I'm with my clients, they are my creative partners. I don't like the word client or customer because it sets up a transactional relationship, and I don't want that. I don't want them to think of their working with me as being nothing more than a transaction. So that's why I treat them as creative partners, and that makes me that actually tells them I have a vested interest, as much of a vested interest in the success of their event as they do. They know that I'm looking at it in that regard, and I am. I'm very concerned about the success of an event. But if every little thing I can do to make the wedding run more smoothly, everything that I can do to put the bride and groom at ease prior to the event, anything I can do to make the parents feel better before the reception so that they're relaxed, they don't have to worry about anything, they don't have to wonder, well, when are we going to do this, or when are we,
Yeah.
The fewer questions that people typically walk into a wedding reception with, the more relaxed they're going to be. And for me, the more relaxed I am because I know they know. So there's never any doubt. But again, I mean, it comes back to this. This goes back to the top of our conversation. If you're charging a small amount of money, then yeah, it may not make sense to want to go to a rehearsal because you're not being reimbursed for it. That makes sense. So you have to build that into your, I don't make it an option. It's just what I do.
Right.
But, I don't really want to talk about dollars and cents, but I get paid to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's all part of the service that you
Right,
offer,
right,
and that's
right.
that's an important thing that a lot of folks will figure out in time if they haven't figured it out yet, because it all eventually hits us all in the. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important, John. I mean, I'm happy to, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me either through Facebook or email or through the paper, I'm happy to talk to them and answer any questions they might have about any of this. It's all a part of, I want to see other DJs succeed. I want to do my part. I'm happy to mentor and coach and do whatever I can to, because in a way it's me paying back, because I've had a lot of mentors who I've already dropped their names along the way. I left out one, Mark Farrell, left that one out. I got more names I could probably throw out there.
Yeah, the show's not over yet.
There's going to be somebody that's going to contact me and go, you left my name out. Well, sorry, didn't mean to do that. But, I've had a lot of mentors along the way, and they've still, to this day, most of them are still my mentors, and I'm happy to repay that by paying it forward. So.
Yep, I think a lot of us do just indeed that paying it forward at different times. We need to get into. We haven't even gotten to the love story concept yet. We've been working our way through.
1 minute. Can you talk about the love story?
Yeah, exactly. Can you talk about your workshop now? No. But as we segue into that, you had mentioned that sometimes with couples that getting information from them is difficult. So give us a little idea of what give us a short definition of the love story, and then let's look at the struggle or how you gather information for that, because I think that's a big thing through the whole event sometimes, is gathering that information for all aspects of the day. So what is the love story?
Okay, well, and to clarify, when I said getting information from the couple is difficult, I'm talking about sometimes with a love story question, or not a love story, a wedding party introduction questionnaire. Maybe they just have, if they don't really have a great sense of humor, it's a lot harder for them to come up with funny stuff. And sometimes, a couple will say, let's just keep it straight. And that's fine. I have no problem with that either. But I still, we still fill in the blanks, just without the drops. If I heard the question right, you want to know how Well,
First
first off,
up, I want to give me, for those who aren't familiar with what the love story concept is, just give us
okay.
a little Wikipedia explanation.
Okay, the Wikipedia explanation would be it is an audio enhanced. First off, the love story workshop is called the AudioMazing Love Story Workshop. Okay, and AudioMazing is just a fun word I came up with. Essentially, what it means is an audio enhanced love story. And by audio enhanced, I mean it's incorporating the bride and groom's voices and words into the love story. So rather than being a love story in total. I'm kind of a love story. I'm kind of a storyteller and a narrator because
Okay.
what I do is I lead guests into how the couple met, but I let the couple talk. I use the couple's voices and words to actually say how they met, and everything from how they met, who introduced them. I mean, it just depends on the love story itself, but it could be anything from how they met, where they met, when they met, when did they say, who said I love you first, when was the first kiss, did they ever have that conversation of exclusivity, when did the topic of marriage come up, who brought it up, did you shop for rings, when did he propose, where did he propose, how did he propose, and all that. So those are all questions that are a part of the interview process, but what I pull from the couple is I'll go through all that information. I mean, that's a thumbnail sketch of the interview. The interview itself takes about it depends on the couple. It can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. It just depends on the couple and how talkative they are. The more talkative they are, the better for me because that gives me more information to work with.
Sure.
But so what I do is after I've interviewed the couple, is I'll go back and I will pull the best little bits and pieces out of that to compile a love story that is usually a love story for me is I try to keep it to 8 minutes, 10 minutes tops, 8 to 10 minutes. It just depends. Sometimes I'll start out with an 8-minute love story, but because of laugh lines and that kind of stuff, it may go a little bit longer. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, again, when we'll have to work on the definition of short, but
Hey, John, how long have I been writing for you?
yeah, exactly.
My
Ron,
1,200 word articles that are like War and Peace.
I think I remember the first conversation. So, John, how many words should it be? Oh, about 700.
I keep waiting for you to put together a special edition just with my section.
At times it feels like it, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to talk about how I'm on page 6.
So we have our love story, and
Yeah.
now, what kind of a response do you see from the guests? Now, one of the concerns that people have, especially DJs, are like, oh my gosh, the guests are going to view it in a negative way, some way, shape, or form, any number of ways. In your experience, what have you heard? What have you seen and experienced from the guests?
Well, the guests love it, and so do the bride and groom, because here's the thing. I never share a love story with a couple before I present it. So the first time they're ever going to hear it is going to be at their wedding. That's it. And so traditionally, I'll put them in director's chairs so they're up high, or I'll make sure if they're on a platform, that's fine. But watching their faces as they hear things that they've said to me, and keep in mind, by the time I do a love story, it's been 4 months since the interview, so they've forgotten all about what they've told me. The idea, I'm not one to ever embarrass anyone, but if they said it and they didn't say don't use this, it's so, but I mean, it's fun to have. One of the things I encourage couples to do during the interview process is don't be afraid to talk over each other. I don't want it to be, well, he said, she said. I want that interaction of, well, he did that. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. No, I didn't. All that stuff is gold. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to part of that story, and the guests love hearing that interaction that goes on between the couple of, arguing over whether he said I love you first or whether she said I love you first.
Okay, so how now as I'm listening to this, I'm visualizing. Are you using some of these audio, some audio from the interview?
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Did I not? Okay. So what happens is in my very first meeting with a couple, and again, this comes down to part of it is client experience, but mostly for the AudioMazing Love Story. My very first meeting with a couple is to, I call it a getting acquainted meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So really what I'm doing is for an hour and a half, I'm going to interview them about their relationship, everything that there is to know, not everything, but for most of the details. Some of them I already talked about, how you met, where you met, all
Yep,
that.
yep, exactly.
Right. So, and then throughout all of this, I'm recording them.
Okay, so you are. Okay.
Right. So when, and I'm sorry I left that. I don't know how I did that. So after that interview is complete, I go back through and I listen to that interview and I pull out the best little bits and pieces of that interview, and that becomes part of the love story. Those little bits and pieces. So I have her talking about the night that they met, or I have both of them talking about that first kiss. Or one of my favorites is that I'll ask them, did you ever have that talk of exclusivity? And I love it when they say, yeah, I asked her to, it was at this night, we were over dinner, and then before the groom can finish getting it out, she'll go, he asked me to go steady. Or something to that effect. I mean, that's stuff. So that's part of those little snippets become part of the love story. But there's the beauty behind all this, John, is that I'm not only getting the information for the love story, there are added benefits to this, because in this conversation, I'm asking, what do you share in common? What do you enjoy doing most together? What are your hot buttons, cold buttons, so when I sit down with them for the planning meeting, I have a really good feel for what their personality and style is. So when I'm offering them ideas of things that they may want to do at their event, I'm not just shotgunning them ideas. I'm hitting them with ideas that I think are going to be specific to the two of them. And I'm developing a trusting relationship with them. We're not just creative partners during that conversation. We're friends.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or we're becoming friends.
Sure.
And again, that trust factor is hugely important to me.
Gotcha. Okay. So we've got that. Let's see. I had two questions when I asked you the first one.
Now you're getting old. I'm going to say the reason I can't remember anything is because I'm getting old.
So we've got our interview, and you're presenting that. Oh yeah. There we go. I wanted to the guest response. You were talking the couple, and you talked about
laughter, oohs and ahs. And actually, I encourage my guests to participate. I encourage the guests to participate. So, like at the beginning of a love story, I might say, "This is John and Mary's love story," and the guest all said, "Aw, okay," and the guest all say, "Ah." Well, what I've just done is I've given them permission to react.
Oh yeah.
I do. So if they want to awe, and sometimes, you'll get like 3 people that are awe at a moment, like maybe when I said I love you, and I'll stop and I'll just kind of look at the room, and all of a sudden everybody will awe,
Yeah.
So I encourage that participation. I encourage the applause when they finally started talking about marriage or whatever. I mean, I try to make it interactive in a way without going overboard with it.
Nice. I think that's really cool. The way you're able to, and part of this will go back to your improv training too, is when you're in the moment with the crowd, and you don't get that quite response at the level you want, and you can.
Oh, you can give that look. Yeah, like that look that you get on a TV show. When a comedian kind of just turns to the camera and looks, that laughter kind of reaction.
Exactly. Yep.
And actually, what I should say is there is an example of there's a clip of a love story on the AudioMazing Love Story workshop page, and then there's actually a full length AudioMazing Love Story, that is audio enhanced love story, on the Audio Amazing Love Story Workshop Facebook page.
Okay, so let's give
off the website or off the
let's give now the website for those who want to check that out, because we're getting towards our end of our hour here.
Okay. So real quick, if you want to just get all the information for the Audio Amazing Love Story Workshop that's going to be taking place at Mobile Beat Conference on March 13th and 14th. It's a day and a half workshop. It's all day on Monday. It's all day on Sunday, half day on Monday, a total of 14 hours. You want to go to ronruth.com/workshops. And all the information is right there. Again, it's ronruth, RUTH.com/workshops. And all the information is there. As I said, there's a clip there. You can go to our Facebook page, same thing, Audio Amazing Love Story Workshop. And there's all sorts of, there's a couple more clips, and there's also a full length video. Now, do we want to talk about the special deal for all the listeners?
I think we should. And then, of course, Mitch is going to come knocking on the door here in a few minutes. And
Mitch, have a seat.
He's all fired up and excited.
What Mitch doesn't realize is that he's young. He can stay up late. It's past my bedtime. So, I'm kidding.
And for those of you watching, the link is in the description below. And I'm about ready to add the next component to the description below. That's your cue, Ron.
Oh, okay. All right. So here we go. So here's the deal. Right now, if you want to attend the workshop in Las Vegas, it's $700 to attend. However, just for all the viewers here on Disc Jockey News TV, I'm offering a special $75 savings for the next few hours. This will actually end at midnight tomorrow evening, Monday evening. So if you want to register and take advantage of the $75 discount, whoops, I guess I should take my finger off of it. This is the URL, ronruth.com, love75. If you go there, you can register, and it's only going to be $625 for you to register, as opposed to $700 for you to register. Okay. $75 savings ends tomorrow evening at midnight, Monday, the 18th. Once this is gone, it's gone. There's only 8 seats available. I have half of them gone. So I'd like, just off of this, just to go ahead and fill the other 4 and be done with this, so that we can say, hey, the workshop is full, and we got everybody a place. So don't dilly-dally around about this. If you want to take advantage of it, do it now. Again, this high-tech stuff.
This is pretty high-tech. I mean, let's face it. We spared no
expense. No. This is the URL for the $75 discount. And there's also a link on this page that will take you to the workshop page, so that you can see all the details. Pretty much all this here is the discount.
And those links have all been put down in the description. Right. If you guys are watching the video, the link is there, but you'd have to refresh, and you don't want to refresh right now, because this is going to be amazing right now.
Yeah, and you don't go there before Mitch comes on, because I don't want Mitch sending me texts and emails saying, hey, you stole my audience. So make note of it. It's good for 24 hours. Everybody also gets this book. I've been working on this. This will be the booklet for the Las Vegas show, and it's got, you'll be able to take this home with you. It's got everything in it. I'm going to walk you through the process of the interview, how to do the edits, how to write a script. And you're going to actually present an Audio Amazing Love Story, an audio enhanced love story before you leave.
Nice.
And what more could you ask? But wait, there's
more. There's the Ginsunai set.
You get to spend 14 hours with me. How much fun is that?
Well, you were doing well. And then
yeah, so much for it.
Here goes the crowd.
Yeah, there goes the conference. And boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, we just had a couple of folks thank you, Ron, for some great ideas. And of course, if you guys are watching and you didn't pick up, there was I think 4 what I would consider money tips in our show for tonight. So yes, thank you, Ron. Good stuff. And
by the way, they can also, if anybody has questions, feel free. I have a email address through Disc Jockey News. You can You can catch up with me on Facebook. You can send me a message to the AudioMazing Love Story Workshop page. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. The URL.
Yeah, we got it. And the for those of you wondering, the email is ronruth@discjockeynews.com. You can send an email there. He will be able to get that and answer your questions and give you some educated information that will turn your life around and make it so that
Page 6.
the music sounds better, the flowers smell better,
They do.
the birds singing is clearer.
And yeah. And clients are going to love you. They're going to refer you. They're going to pay more for your services.
Yeah, in all seriousness, that is really a big part of the whole everything we talked about tonight is that personalizing and really creating something that people are going to talk about and share and really be the thing that people say, you've got to hire this person.
It's all about the client experience, which is also a part of this workshop and all of that during that 14 hours as well. Here comes Mitch, I think.
Yep, I think Mitch is just about there. Oh,
Mitch.
There's Mitch.
Get off my yard, Mitch.
Mitch, you can stay with us if you're there. Your mic's not on though.
Mitch.
His mic's not on yet. It's not showing.
Look at the halo above his head.
Yeah, that is kind of
It
impressive.
almost looks like Lucifer with a halo.
Mitch, I'm gonna mute your video. I think I can do that until you get your mic up. Your mic's not even showing up on the system here. Oh, I've got to switch.
I'll stay with you, John. I'll take Mitch's time. You want to talk about sales?
Sales, marketing, puppy dogs.
Mitch is the best. Here's the cool thing. I just want to, while we're waiting for Mitch, and this is a plug for everybody. John, and actually, for those of you, I'm going to speak to the viewers, all 5,000 of you. John has got to be the proudest guy alive right now, because when you look at all the workshops that are taking place at Mobile Beat this year, with only maybe one exception, they are all being hosted by Disc Jockey News writers. Mike Walter and Joe Bunn are doing the PhDJ. Right. You got Mitch doing his sales presentation. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the names. You've got Jason Spencer doing a workshop. You've got me doing a workshop.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, there you are. You're coming in. Ron is making an inspirational point right now, Mitch. So just hang on.
Pointing out that Mitch, all the writers are doing workshops. I'll take Mitch's time. You want to talk about sales?
Oh, Mitch, you must have a mic on, or the
delay.
Yeah, he's got the audio on yet. There you go.
I'm here.
Okay, now turn your camera back on because you're set. But yeah, Ron, you're definitely making a good point. It's really kind of cool that this year a lot of Disc Jockey News writers and talent are on stage, whether it's doing seminars at Mobile Beat or doing some different things as connected with the show, or heck, we'll be doing each morning. We're going to be doing a DJN TV live show. It's going to be kind of early. It's going to be 7:00 out there, but we're going to be coming to you in the morning. We're going to be.
I'm going to be on one of those shows. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you are. We'll be coming in the morning with a live show. We'll be coming through later. We're going to try to do some Periscope things. We're going to be doing some live streaming from the show and just try to really make it so that we can bring that conference experience to a lot of you that just can't maybe afford it this year, in hopes that it'll give you some information so that maybe next year it'll be in your budget. Mitch, you got a camera?
I'm here.
Can you turn your camera off and then turn it back on, please? That should bring it up for us.
Okay.
He's a vast gray space right now.
He is.
Ooh.
And
I love the little icon there.
How about that?
No, not yet.
I just turned it off and on in the meeting.
There it is.
There you are.
There you are. Yay. Well,
Hi, Mitch.
You are with us, Mitch. Yay.
Yay.
We're going to continue.
Hey, Rod, remember that time I took a picture of you with this? Remember?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, the video, actually, I think.
Yeah, I think there was a video.
There's a video. Hey, Mitch, I understand you're going to be taking over now. So
I'm batting the ninth inning here.
Yeah, well, you're cleanup. So, and that's
either
important.
cleanup or you're the relief. Yeah, you're the
relief pitcher.
Yeah, however you guys want to put it. Just make sure you don't cross up our. Oh, I'm batting last. I'm the I'm coming in for the save. No, you can't.
It's all good.
Yeah, you can't cross your.
I didn't
face.
say that.
I know,
Ron,
but you guys
didn't
were
say
there. Come on, let's not cross
Mitch,
up. Our
I
analogies.
believe you, Mitch, man.
that.
What am I gonna do?
Well, Ron,
Go to bed. That's what you're gonna do. Go to bed. No.
yeah.
I'm too queued up now, man. I'm like John got me all he got
Hot
me all
bothered?
hot bothered. That too.
All right, this show's deteriorated really quick.
We were doing so good until just now, and then
Then I came on.
And then he comes on and
then you have to take the show into the toilet. I don't get
downhill real quick.
well. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you,
Ron.
Ron.
It was fun, and Mitch, have a great time, and I'll see you in Vegas. I know,
Yes, I will see you in Vegas. Looking forward to it.
and not that I want to plug anything again, but I will see you. So, John, do you fade me away, or do I have to fade myself?
I think you're
out?
gonna have to. I think you have to go and click to leave the meeting, which should be in the lower right-hand corner of your screen.
The lower right-hand corner of my screen.
It should say end meeting.
Oh, end meeting. Well, I'll just stop video and then I'll find it. So I'll be real quiet while I'm doing that. Thanks. See y'all later.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can switch us, Mitch, to a side by side. We're not getting a side by side yet. Maybe once Ron's
Okay.
he pops
there it
off.
I found it. Bye.
There you go. Now we're left and right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is live video that you're experiencing right now. There's not much magic when we're doing this switching and changing and such. Yeah, here comes the train wreck. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we have those.
All good.
We made it, Mitch. We're here.
We are here. We are live.
We are live. We're here. Last week was just a tough week for us in many ways.
Yeah, I apologize. First off, any of you who took time out Wednesday night to be a part of the show and I wasn't able to be there, physically was not able to be there. I got food poisoning on Wednesday, so I apologize. I really hope you're making this, and I will promise to make it up to you at the end of the call.
Okay, there we are. They're wanting more lighting in front of you.
Oh boy,
you're looking really shadowed.
Well, that's going to be a challenge here.
Okay, that could be tough. Okay, yeah. Well, if it's not possible, we'll just go. But you're kind of dark.
Probably gonna have to go.
Okay.
I can try to change.
Yeah, we'll just let it run.
Okay.
That won't be a big deal. They just want to see your the lovely eyes and so they can make that contact with the soul.
Yeah, because we're late at night, I'm in my home office, not my office where we would have all the light we wanted. But
yeah, that's quite right. So, sales process. You have become a student of this. You've dug into this and training and learning and different things. In that whole educational process you have gone through, you've been able to kind of put things into a facet of what the sales process is. Walk me through what are those different facets of the process.
Okay, so we have a specific definitive process that I developed for our company, Tailored Weddings, and through my trainings with Jeffrey Gittimer and many others too. And a lot of what I find DJs and wedding pros, for that matter, have learned about the sales process, especially the first step or two, is a little bit backwards. The steps. You want me to list out the steps? I mean,
yeah, just give us the different steps in there, and not much. Maybe a step in about a sentence, and then we'll dig into each part a little bit.
Okay, so the steps for me that we teach in the Sales of Solutions workshop is number one. First is research your client. Number two is a welcome, filling in the blanks. What's your and their story? And then we get into their experience, their expectations, their goals, and then how do they plan to get to their goal? That's step 4. And then after that, we're painting the picture of their outcome with yourself at the helm of the party, of course, or at the event. And then we're presenting solutions, how to close after that. And then finally, you're overcoming objections, right? We all know that's a tough thing. How do you handle that? And then finally, we're setting expectations. What are those next steps that you have to take? So that to me is a sales process that we work through with every single client that comes to us at Tailored Weddings.
So you've got it really laid out into a nice flow chart, and I think let's look at this time of the year. We were doing bridal shows.
Yeah.
When does that sales process kind of kick in? If you were to put it, of the time from the moment the bride hits your booth, when and how do those pieces come together?
I think it starts even before the bride hits the booth. I think it starts in regards to figuring out the bridal shows themselves. In fact, I dropped a bridal show this year due to the fact that the past one or two times we've done the show, we haven't gotten the response we've wanted out of it. So I think just like we talk about in research your client for the first step of the sales cycle, it's the same thing in researching other wedding pros, other events you want to be affiliated with, a part of, to know, is this the right fit for us as a marketing vehicle, as a sales vehicle, or not? So I think it starts even before the bridal show. But then, of course, once we get to the bridal show, let's go there. Once we get to the bridal show, then it's a case of having that game plan already prepared before you get to the show. In other words, what are you going to use for marketing? What are you going to use for an approach? How are you going to set up your booth? What are you going to use any gear or not? What are you going to showcase? How are you going to get their attention? How are you going to be remembered? So those are just, I don't know, 6, 7 questions I just rattled off right there.
Yeah.
All different things that you need to be focusing on before you get to the show.
Okay, so now we've thought it. We've kind of worked our way through. We found a show that we liked that fits our demographic for the type of bride we want. We've gone and we've answered these questions, and we figure a game plan of how we're going to use that information that we could eventually get from the show. Now, how does a person prepare? I think is the best way to engage the bride at the show. What kind of things would help someone prepare for that?
So preparing to engage a bride at the show, you first need to put yourself in her shoes. You first need to understand what she's going through. And the reality is, at a bridal show, she is so overwhelmed with everything going on. And you don't want to be one of the typical wedding pros that are there just jumping out right away and saying, what's your date? You want to have something to engage them. And it could be many different things. It could be the weather that day. It could be the reality of, how overwhelmed they are, stressed they are. I often joke with a bride and groom when they come up to my booth. I remember doing the Palace of Auburn Hills bridal show in Metro Detroit, where there's literally over 1,000 brides coming through the Palace where the Pistons play.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're stuffing bags at these shows just with your marketing literature, and you're, investing a ton of money into a marketing piece to try to set yourself apart, because that's how they will sort through you later, is the marketing pieces that you have. And just to try to break the ice with them, you need to have something to do that. So back then for me, because of the cattle call that it was for brides, it was, did you get some good kindling for your fireplace? And put their bag. Because that's the reality of it, right? Half of this stuff is going to end up just in the garbage or starting a fire with. So you need to have something to be able to break that ice. Humor, as Ron noted earlier in our segment here tonight, it can be a powerful connector, and something where you can know comedy, and if you study any comedy training, that can definitely help you as well. The other biggest thing I think from that standpoint in regards to engagement and connecting a bride right away is you need to make them think and ask a question that will make them think. We're big proponents here at Sales Solutions for Jeffrey Gitomer's trainings and things like that. And I've had the pleasure of being a Gitomer certified advisor now for about a year. And I've conducted a few of the Little Black Book of Connections workshops. And one of our workshop items in that particular workshop that we've adapted for Sales Solutions as well is a 30-second commercial. And your 30-second commercial is how you engage a prospect that you've never met before to want to know more about you. And that's about your time frame at a bridal show, right? Mm-hmm. Is the same thing. So we go through a 4-step process in regards to your 30-second commercial and how to properly, get someone to ask you a question. Because if you can get someone to ask you a question, you win.
Right.
You intrigue them.
Okay, so let's do a kind of a hypothetical here. You're
Sure.
at the bridal show. Bride Susie comes up and says, "Hi, Mitch. We're looking for a DJ. We're wondering if you would be open for our day." That's what she's going to lead with. She didn't lead with the how much do you charge. Now,
Okay.
I want to how you would take her from there to, you mentioned you want to get her to the point where she's thinking. You said that.
Yep, absolutely.
How do we do that?
So,
What? Give me an example of a way that could happen.
So again, depending on how they've asked me, how they've approached it, will be how I approach them. There are actually 4 types of commercials you can use. There's a deficit commercial. There's a give first commercial. It's what do you do? And then an unfair advantage. But in this case, I would probably go with, if she says, "Hi, Mitch, we're looking to possibly hire you as a DJ. Are you available for our date?" That would probably be, to me, a give first approach, which that to me then would be a case of, I meet a lot of brides, and one of the best ways that I can help them is to ask, what else do you need for your wedding day? And then once I have those answers, I'll search my mental database of people that I know and see who I know that will fit what you're looking for. And then let's share that together. Let's sit down and talk over coffee and see if I can help you. And then we'll talk more about your wedding too. And I'm going to help you with other things besides just the DJ portion.
Okay.
So giving first, I think, is a huge help there. And of course, it's going to, ingratiate you to her as well. And that will, in turn, make her want to chat with you more because you're giving first of something that she may need.
Okay. You said there were more than one, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just give me the titles of or
all right.
A little quick snippet of each one.
A deficit commercial is where you show your prospective client that they have a problem, something that you might be able to help with, something that they didn't even know they had a problem that existed before, they walked in and met you essentially at that moment. Probably my favorite 30-second commercial. And please, I want to caveat this for a second, John, if I can. I'm not telling you, I would not suggest for you to take what I'm saying here today and write it down verbatim and then, practice it and use it. Because you need to find what works for you. There's a certain formula that we use to help you create your own 30-second personal commercial. And I can walk through that too if you wish. So my deficit commercial is essentially who is guaranteeing your guests will leave your reception saying, "Wow, that was so much fun. It was so Jennifer and Corey."
Interesting, because when you mentioned deficit, and I was envisioning I had to a point of almost selling against a fear.
No.
And that's not the direction you went to. That's
No.
interesting. I was just that immediately. That's what deficit. Oh, what are you missing? Oh my gosh, you could have had so much more. Somehow incorporating that. But that's interesting how you take it a different direction. So for me, it was unexpected.
I'm not the biggest fan of fear-based selling. I mean, there's a space for it, I think, as long as it's true. Fear-based selling that I would use is not a case of anything deceitful. It's a case of, hey, we only have one availability left for your day. If you'd like, you can, have the contract be pending. I can pencil you in for 7 days. You can leave with a contract, doesn't obligate you, but yet you're one step closer if you decide to go with us. And, and if someone else calls, I'll give you first right of refusal. That's what we do. Again, you do what you want to do. That would be an item of quote unquote fear-based selling, but it's true at that point. We would only have one availability left if I told somebody that. It's not a case of leading them on. So once you get them to think about that question, who is guaranteeing your guests will leave your reception saying, "Wow, that was so much fun. It was so Jennifer and Corey." Pause, let them think about that.
Yeah.
And then I would normally say, what if I could guarantee that's exactly what your guests will say about yours? And then they're intrigued. They want to hear more. So then you go into, your pitch, if you will. My name is Mitch Taylor of Tailored Weddings. My mission is to have your guests saying that exact phrase, "Wow, that was so much fun. It was so Jennifer and Corey." I want them to say that exact phrase at the end of your night. I don't know if I can deliver that for you or not, but I'd love to chat with you over a cup of coffee and see how I can help. when's good for us to get together? And that's it. But this helps to intrigue them. There are other things we use at a bridal show as well to draw a meeting, which we can talk about too if you want. But yeah, that's a few examples of a personal commercial.
Okay. There's a couple. You've given us a couple here, but we've got some questions, Mitch, and I don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to waylay, but we have a couple that I want to hit here.
Sure.
Somebody had asked about contests. About contests at a bridal show booth. Is that something that was this be something that if you had to put this into your plan early, that it would be?
Yes.
Okay. Kind of go through then. Give them a 60-second how they would implement a plan using a contest.
So implement a plan using a contest. We've done a few different contests over the years. Some have been successful, some have flopped. Just point blank, I did a diamond giveaway that completely flopped. I would have thought that it would have worked out well. Didn't work out well. So we had a diamond code and we had a letter we sent out with the code on it. And if their code matched the one posted, they had to call into our office to see if it matched the code. This is back before, we had websites that could match all this stuff up.
Yeah.
So that was one we ran that ended up not going so well. Right now, we currently use scratch-off cards, and those work exceptionally well for us. And a bride comes into the booth. We do the 30-second personal commercial, if you will. One of our brides just has a chat with her. And then from there, we find out where they're at in the process. Are you looking to have a sit down and be able to meet with anyone at this point? Where are you guys at in your process? Are you just early on? Are you looking for a DJ right now? That kind of thing. And then if they're ready to meet with someone, we say, hey, if you'd like to schedule a meeting with us, we'll write your name on one of these scratch-off cards. When you come in, you can win up to 20% off your wedding entertainment package with us. And then, or a few other offers that we have on there. And then we'll scratch it off together at the meeting and see if you win.
Sure.
And so scratch-off cards have worked pretty well. So.
Okay. Let's see. A comment here from Chris. Being from a small area, I wanted to adventure to the bigger city bridal shows. I know we do great work, but fear about if they can compete. Any advice overcoming the fear of being able to compete?
Yes. Oh boy, Chris, we're going to address this coming up at Mobile Beat, Las Vegas 20, when my seminar called ROAR, right before Red Food there on Tuesday. And ROAR is an acronym for risk, opportunity, action, and reward. And I would argue that you need to overcome that risk, that fear, that risk you have of, well, did I do that or not? You know what, man, just do your investigating in regards to the show. Decide if it's, what you want, if it's going to deliver, number of brides you want, right? Are they advertising it well? The reason I abandoned a show because they didn't drive the number of brides we wanted to get out of that time frame. But I would definitely look at how many other DJs are there. What are you going to be able to compete on? What's your niche? What's your hook? And then work on it, practice it, and absolutely sign up. Take that advantage. Take that lead. I've tried to jump into Green Bay bridal show market before. Frankly, it ended up not panning out for us very well. It's an area that's saturated with lower priced alternatives, if you will. And for the drive time, it didn't really work out for what I wanted. But it ain't going to hurt to take that risk. I would encourage you to explore and take that risk if you can.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Our next question.
The answer to Cindy's question is yes.
Yeah, Cindy, I think we might have covered that in the
scratch offs.
Scratch offs.
Let me clarify that, John, real quick though.
Yeah.
Just to clarify Cindy's question, I think it is: do you offer incentives or discount special at the show? No, I don't want to book a bride at the show. I want to be able to book meetings at the bridal show. And to me, there's a big difference. There are a lot of companies that will want to book right at the show. I want to book them right at the show. I'm still a big believer in Michael Port, Red Velvet Rope policy, and know the clients that you're working for and know if they're a right fit for you or not. And I also, believe it or not, I have fired a client once because in the end, we just weren't a good fit.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put my team member, my employee, in that situation either. And so I wouldn't recommend just booking willy-nilly at a show without ever getting a chance to actually sit down and chat and find out really if they're a good fit for you and if you're a good fit for them. I think you're not setting them up for success if you do a booking at the show just willy-nilly, just based upon they want to book right then and give you money. But that's my philosophy. It's not everyone's philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's very common with a lot of people, but as you say, it's not everyone. I want to revisit Chris's question about that fear of competing. There's one little aspect of it that really, I think, helped me personally, and then Mitch, we'll get back to the stuff. When I started to go to national DJ conventions and starting to meet people like yourself, Mitch, and the Bill Herman and different people, and starting to kind of network and learn and improve my show, and getting a better feel for what everyone else is out there doing at a higher level, it really kind of helps to boost your confidence to know that, hey, you know what, I'm learning from these people, and I'm getting better, and I'm improving. And if I'm able to improve to a level where I can be in the same room or stratosphere with some of the national talent, that's a confidence builder for me, that I know now that I can travel pretty much anywhere, and I'm going to be above average easily, if not one of the top people in any market. And that came because of going to conventions and networking and learning from other people and asking questions and at times sharing videos of my performance with others and such.
Yeah.
I think that's just a critical part of really breaking down that fear barrier.
Well, and for me, yes, that, and also a little bit of the reverse of that actually too, because when this all goes back to Mark Farrell's Disc Jockey America for me, and getting involved in the national scene and the Northern Disc Jockey Conference, the very first conference I attended after I got Tailored Entertainment off the ground, now Tailored Weddings. But, I got to meet Bill Herman, and I got to meet, Mark and many other people that I looked up to, Randy Bartlett, and still do to this day for that matter, and realized that, wow, I need to really step up my game here. So I threw myself into training, and I've taken, 8 Marbeka workshops and, Toastmasters and, comedy workshops with Kyle Cease and Louis Anderson and many other things. And I find that helps sharpen my saw. And the reason why I still am a huge proponent of training is because, frankly, I don't think I'm that good, number one. And number two, I don't want some young buck to come up and take my spot. And if I stop, it's going to happen.
For sure.
So.
Definitely. Geez, we're going to keep going with some questions here.
Sure.
Naveen was sharing that they 6 to 8 companies in their bridal show that he does. A lot of people there. And then he asked a question of, how do you feel about live mixing in the booth to demonstrate your skills? And I've got a thought on this one, but I'm going to let you start it out with that.
I have some thoughts on that too. A few different things. Number one, if that is part of your USP.
That's where I was going to go. For those who aren't familiar with USP, please define that.
Unique selling position.
Thank you.
And if that's part of your USP, I don't necessarily have that big of a problem with it. I would probably encourage you, though, to rent a separate room. Somehow, because otherwise you may upset the other vendors that are in your area, the other wedding pros that are in your area at the bridal show, because we all know DJs, I'm sorry, but that music's going to get progressively louder as the mix goes on. I know I'm guilty of it when I'm mixing. It's like, the volume just keeps increasing as you go. So I would, caveat that a little bit. If it's part of your USP, I would argue that there are probably few DJs, and I haven't seen everyone, obviously, but there are a few DJs where I would say that is part of their USP.
I would think so.
The Jason Janais of the world, the Matt Radicellis of the world, who's going to be presenting on Monday at Mobile Beat as well. Man, I'm so looking forward to Matt's presentation. And I've seen it before. But if that's part of your unique skill set, then I think it's okay. But with a caveat of, be sure you're getting permission from the show owner. watch for not upsetting other wedding pros, that kind of thing.
And Max just made a good mentioned in here, and Max, you're going to see this in 30 seconds. Max mentioned, the speakers, my speakers are bigger. There are some people who are going to have that as their USP of gear, that they can bring the biggest largest, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Don't get us wrong. It's just that
nothing wrong with that.
We each have our different selling points. And I think that's a really, as I've talked to Naveen, for a lot of you who aren't familiar with him, first off, you should get to know him. He's a very, very diverse background in his entertainment compared to a lot of the rest of us. And he does some really cool things and is a wealth of information and knowledge. And his USP is going to be much different than what mine is. So it's just a different look in things.
What was the comment? Most DJs don't like each other. What was that about?
I think Buttery. I think that's an accurate statement. You really think about it, Mitch. We go back 15 to 20 years ago, and it might have been, but really early on, DJs didn't like each other. We would be like, "Oh my God, here's my. These are my. This is mine. No, you can't learn. You can't watch me. You can't." And I think that's what Buttery's really is. That maybe that exists out there with some people in some markets, but I don't think it's as prevalent as it once was. Before we started going to conventions and before we started, having these sessions and such, it was, I'm not going to talk to you. You're not going to, no. My weddings, I do a couple of weddings and that's it. Now, we'd never talk about and say, hey, how do you, talk to that bride when she comes up to your bridal show booth? We'd have never had that conversation. It would have been, you'll learn it yourself.
Right. And I don't know. I'm a fan of giving back. I'm a fan of doing what I can to help anyone succeed. There are a lot of different ways to do that. And that's offline, online, workshop format, whatever. There's a lot of ways. This live chat right here. A lot of ways to do that.
And Naveen's mentioned earlier, there was somebody at a bridal show booth had one of those little robots, and I'm guessing the robot was probably the screen and it moved around. Modern Family had an episode where they had the robots on, but it was something that a person in a remote location could control and do their things. Cool idea, but I look at something like that. Yes, people were taking pictures with it, and they were, it's an attention grabber. But there's having the attention, getting the attention, and actually making the eventual sale. Just because they have a robot means nothing about their DJ ability, their ability to work with the crowd, to create a magic moment, as Ron was talking about, or a memorable moment.
Yeah. It's a USP, I suppose. It can be a USP, but in the end, is the robot going to be at your reception? And then is it going to take attention away from really where it should be? I don't know.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to know, and I'm sure you'll never get a straight answer from the crew that rented it, because it seemed like a great idea at the time. But it's one of those things that. So we were doing a bridal show, and they were giving, the DJ company was giving out a piece of cake, and it was something, I don't remember, like cupcakes or something to that effect, and it was a sweets for the sweetest day of your life, and they were giving it out, and the cupcake wrapper had the names on there, and boy, from a distance it's like, oh my God, that's a great idea, because your name's on every cupcake. Well, what do people do with cupcakes?
Exactly.
Like what
for 5 seconds.
What do they do with the wrapper? It was, on paper, it's like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to see our name. Yeah, for 6 seconds.
It's a bad idea. My opinion.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't get me wrong, I love cupcakes. And
somebody somewhere thought that was a great idea and enough to do it. But okay, Mitch, we got to get back into it. Let's talk a little bit now. So we're having the conversation with the bride. You mentioned, of course, getting them thinking, getting them asking questions. Now, in your flow, what kind of questions do you want them to be asking you beyond price and beyond availability? We need to go to questions that are secondary and tertiary levels. What kind of questions are you trying to work them towards?
I just want to find out, more about them. What do they want out of their event? What do they want their guests to say? One of my favorite questions to ask in a sales appointment is, if you could be a fly on the wall or in the car as your guests are driving home from your reception, what do you want them to say? And then, because that's their outcome.
Yep.
That's what they want it to be. And then find out, okay, now that's what you want to happen. Now let's work it backwards. How do we get to that? And then they do the deer in headlights look. I don't know. In most cases. So, and that's where you position yourself as the expert in the process. So to me, the kinds of questions I want them to ask, I guess, is what makes you different? That's one question.
Right.
What do you do at events? And then I'll walk them through a scenario. I'll walk them through, just to introduce a cake, what we work through just to introduce a cake. And have you thought about how each moment is going to happen? Have you thought about the flow of your event? Those are those different questions that we ask, and just get a conversation going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily need them to ask me specific questions. More so, I want to create a deep, strong connection with them and find that hot button, if you will, what that trigger point is, what they want more than anything else, and then see how we can deliver that.
That hot button thing, though, can be just it's not like there's one. There's just so many variables with that.
Correct. There can be more than one hot button.
Yeah, it could be more than one hot button, but I mean, the hot button's going to be so different from person to person. I mean,
Yes.
I've had examples where there's been, the hot thing that the bride wanted was she wanted her dress to glisten like a disco ball in the middle of the dance floor. I've had some where they wanted to have that moment with mom because, she was a single mom raising me. There's just so many. How do you try to find those? I mean, is it possible to find those within that bridal show floor? Is this something that you just can't do there and you have to get to the meeting?
Here's another one the bridal show floor is tough because you have a finite period of time typically, unless you have multiple people staffing a booth. And depending, of course, how big your show is and everything else,
mm-hmm.
We often do shows there's 50 to 150 brides. That's our normal bridal show size, if you will, up here. I'm sure elsewhere there could be 5,000 brides in attendance at a show over a weekend or whatever the case may be. I prefer to do a smaller show to have a greater chance of making a connection versus doing the stuffing of the bags. But another question I'll often ask is, and this is even in the sales appointment, is, are you going to have a father-daughter or mother-son dance?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you want that moment to be? And I'll ask them that question.
Right.
And then I'll say, okay, so what have you seen at other weddings you've been a part of? How has that moment been presented? And most time they can't really give me anything stronger than, well, someone just announced it. And I said, well, is that what you want for yours? And then from there, we talk about the fact that, okay, I think that moment deserves much more than just, it's time for the father-daughter dance.
Yep.
I mean, really? You're compressing 20 plus years of life now into 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? But that's the reality of what you are trying to do in that moment. And so we chat a little bit about, that and how we can create a unique moment for that. And then we chat about, details of if you can create 2, 3, 4 unique moments throughout the night, and that will then create some spontaneity in the event, and thereby guests will stay longer. And that's something I got from, I don't want to, name drop as much as Ron did, but
I don't think you could. We don't have enough time left.
But I believe in giving credit where credit is due. And I'm pretty sure that was originally, for me anyway, my original source of that was Bill Herman and the Entertainment Experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it absolutely is a part of the sales conversation. It absolutely is, because you're selling yourself and how you can impact their day, not just how you impact their day. That's just painting the picture, but painting the picture of their outcome with you at the helm of the event, the memories they're going to get, the difference in the smile of everyone's watching us, or maybe they're not, they're looking at their phones. If the DJ just says, well, it's time for the father-daughter dance. Or if you really create a moment and draw people in. I got a phone call from a guest at my wedding on January 2nd. She called me last week. So about 2 weeks later, whatever it was. And she called to just say what a wonderful job I did at that wedding, and how her husband couldn't stop commenting on it. It was a random guest. I don't even know who this person is.
Right.
But she felt compelled enough to call me about how we involved everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And another missed opportunity. This is on the performance side. I'm sorry, I'm jumping here. Is that okay?
No, go ahead. Finish up. We got a few questions.
Sorry. Another missed opportunity, and I find one of the biggest impacts you can have as a performer is your after blessing speech. That transition you have after the blessing and before dinner, because you have a captive audience at that moment. And if you can draw everybody back in that moment to why they are there, that's going to showcase your skills as an MC, but put the spotlight back where it needs to be to keep everyone engaged and thinking about why they're there throughout that dinner and then into the dancing beyond, in my opinion.
No, I think that's a great spot. And that's one of the little hidden things that I don't talk about when people are asking is I actually have about 4 or 5 different methodologies that I've kind of scripted out. I'll call it a playbook in essence to move from one to the next. And depending upon the situation, I have my outline and my thoughts of what I want to do, and then it just gets adjusted.
Yes, me too. And I don't mean to give away playbooks here, but
that's kind of what this is one of those things.
Sorry,
these are things we don't talk about too terribly much, but it is a part of what you do and such.
It is
good stuff. Good stuff. Cindy had a question, getting back to the bride comes up at a bridal show. And again, because of this being such a great time of the year for this, we want to make sure we talk about this. She comes up and the bride says, hey, how much do you charge? Okay. Let's take it right from there.
So I'll be point blank honest. This is what I do. The very first time we pretty much don't answer that question. We try to ask about them. What are you looking for? We have 4 core services at Tailored Weddings. So we offer day of event coordination, we offer entertainment, we offer photo booths, and we offer lighting. So what would you like a price on? And then we start chatting a little more about that. If they ask a second time, then absolutely need to give them a price. So I start with a starting price point. We start at $1,500 for entertainment, and we move up from there depending on what you wish. We have many different options and can customize a package to fit your needs. And I think that's essentially it.
I think that's a great idea. The really kind of defining what they want, because really they can't be upset about that because, how much do you charge? Well, what would you like a price on? This, because they're just, I have had that where I've had, they're like, I just need wedding music for a ceremony. They didn't need me for a dance. They just needed that. Well, gosh, if I would have said, oh, I charge $1,000 a day. Well, they'd have been like, oh my gosh, that's incredibly expensive for renting a speaker and a microphone or whatever. Yeah. So, I think that's a great, but you get to the point where if they are insistent on a price, you're going to need to do that because we would
kind of have to at that point.
Yeah. When we're looking for prices, we go to look for vehicles on CarSoup, and if you see call dealer, let's face it, we're not happy with that. We want to get an idea. It's part of
yes.
But Adam had a question here.
Yes.
It's what's your follow plan after the bridal show? Mitch once mentioned. Wow, that's tougher to say than I thought.
Mitch once mentioned.
Yeah, 137-14-21 plan or something like that.
Yes. Can I give an exclusive here? Is that okay?
I don't think anyone will tell.
We're going to be debuting a brand new product at Mobile Beat Las Vegas. And it is called the Ultimate Follow-Up System. And I've designed a complete follow-up system. It pairs very nicely with DJ Event Planner. Shameless plug. You're welcome, Troy.
Dun, dun, dun.
We love Troy. It pairs very nicely with DJ Event Planner, plugs in very nicely. It's plug and play. But it essentially lays out exactly what you're going to do at each day, essentially. So yes, we have a process for what you set up to happen automatically, which is an automatic email campaign that's triggered in DJ Event Planner based upon statuses. We have what you may need to do or customize yourself, and that would be your phone calls, if you will. And then what you should plan to do next. So what are the possible outcomes of that status? And yes, for an active lead, or bridal show lead, we do a 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, 14, 21, and 28. That is our follow-up schedule. So at that point, they've got 8 touches via email. And of course, at any point, any one of the touches or the phone calls in between, they could turn around and move into they want us to send them info or send a proposal. So they'll go to sent info status. Or then they want to schedule a meeting. So they'll go into sales meeting status. There's a full email campaign for each one of those statuses that we've already created, been using, works wonderful. For every single step through the process, you can have an automated email campaign and know exactly what to do next at each step in the process. It's in both a Word and Excel document. So if you work better in one versus the other, it can help you out for that. We haven't even put it on the site yet. Just a very true story. I've been slowly releasing it to a few individuals who I've been coaching as of late with different things. Retail on it is probably going to be in the price point of $299 to $249. If anyone wishes to have it, all I want you to do, just reach out, message me. I don't have any fancy, signs like Ron had. Just reach out, message me, and I'd give anyone here on this call the product for $199. That'll be a show special on it too.
Michael Dunham, or Durham here. Sorry, I need my glasses up.
Yes.
Durham. Will it be a Constant Contact or MailChimp?
Yes, it can work with anything because it's going to be a plug and play. It's essentially the Excel spreadsheet will be you drop down and choose what your status is. It lays out exactly what you do for each of those 3 in regards to what you set up to happen automatically, your email campaign through Constant Contact, MailChimp, Ace of Sales or Outstand, which I still use myself as a Gittimer certified advisor. What you want to customize and do yourself, which will be you or your salesperson's follow-up on the phone, and then what you need to plan to do next. What are the possible outcomes of that status with the client? So, for example, a sent info status at that point, they could respond to the email campaign and they go into a sales meeting, right? Then you're going to drop them into sales meeting status, and then that email campaign will start with the confirmation of the appointment and the meeting reminder and all that. That's automatically sent out there. Or maybe they, after send info and the phone calls and the emails that you have going out, they don't respond. You're going to update them to release status. And then at release status, you're going to send them that email campaign, which will go out and trigger we're sad to see you go, and then a link to a survey to get information about why they chose to go another direction. And then you're giving them a hook for that too, with 4 ways to wow your wedding guests, or whatever you choose to use for a hook to get them to fill it out. You're going to send them a nice report, if you will, afterwards to get them to fill out the survey for you.
I think John is, I'm going to reply to him. John, I think from what Mitch is describing, that if you've got that system and you're already sending out and having those reaches, this is really just going to give you the information of what each reach should be as a suggestion for that. Not that this is set in stone, but it's really going to be kind of an outline that you can implement in any system, Infusionsoft, if you're doing eye contact or email, whatever. So John, if you've already got the system, this is really, and Mitch, stop me if I'm wrong, but you're really giving them the content to put into these touches.
Yes. Every single email content is there for you. Some also with pictures as well. Now, I want to caveat this. Everyone's process is going to be different. You don't have to do that many touches. But I would encourage you, I think a lot of salespeople give up too quickly on a prospect. You got to understand that you're not the only thing they have going. They've got a lot else going on in their lives, from, going dress shopping or choosing colors or bridesmaid issues or, mother of the groom issues or, school and work and, fiance. I mean, there's a ton of things going on in their life. So just don't sit there and think, well, they never got back to me and it's only been 5 hours. You can't think like that. And yes, there are phone calls we recommend in the interim there. We typically do a 4, a 9, a 12, a 17, 25, and 35 on the phone call pattern. But that's, like I said, your choice to choose to how many touches you want to have. And again, you can't be pestering them without giving them new information. It can't just be, hey, did you get a DJ yet? No,
Gerald,
Gerald,
this is we're getting to you now. This statement. Go ahead, keep going.
You're not saying in these emails, hey, did you just get a DJ yet? No. I mean, a couple of them you're finding out, okay, where are we at in the process kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with that either. Your email should be short and concise. And again, if you get the content, if you get the email content on this ultimate follow-up system, I would definitely recommend to tweak it to how you would speak to a client. It may not be the way as I speak to a client, but I would encourage you to keep it short, keep it conversational, and then obviously tweak it to your needs.
And I think that making it tweaking and making it adjustable. What is your thought? And Gerard, I'm sorry, it was Gerard. And again, I've had to blow this screen up because it's going so fast. You guys are putting things up. You mentioned that it has to be new information. Now, what is your thought about having some content in there? So maybe a tip or an idea or a suggestion. Talk about that for a little bit.
Absolutely. So, and depending on the campaign, of course, the campaign for us for booked client, for example, is absolutely all about tips. Our booked clients, I encourage you that our process for a booked client is there's an automatic email that goes out every month. So, and essentially it's a timeline of what they should be doing for that month. So for example, for a booked client, they're going to get, 12 months prior to their wedding day, this is what you should be working on. 11 months prior to your wedding day, this is what you should be working on. And it walks through literally all of those things that they should be working on 12 months prior to their wedding day, 11 months prior to their wedding day. And, they're different. The email subject lines matter too, because that's going to draw them in to want to read more, especially if they haven't booked you yet. You want to have creative email subject lines. That's a key. So yeah, I'm a big fan of being top of mind. I'm a big fan of giving content to them as much as possible. If you can throw out a tip or two, even before you book them, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Because I think getting back to that, will they throw if you have a tip that's of value to them, especially if it's a tip, and okay, so here's a tip that you guys can probably take. If it's a tip that they can use down the road, but they can't use it today, but it's something that's valuable enough that they want to hang on to it, they're going to save your email off to the side than to just read it once and throw it away. Amen. So it has to be a timely tip, and it almost wants to be a tip that's going to be closer to the wedding. Just guys, file that away.
We send out, I'll throw this out there too. One of our tips that we send out, and this is an automated email that goes out 14 days prior to the event, is also sent to the maid of honor and best man, and it's tips for their toast. Because when do most maid of honor and best men start thinking about their toast? About 14 days later.
Well, the best man the night before.
Yeah. So we send out that email, just, top 10 toasting tips is sent out about 14 days prior to the wedding, automated email campaign.
Look, we're going to have to wrap things up in a little bit. Michael, what if you don't like the follow-up system? What do you...
Will I give a money-back guarantee? Of course I will. That's fine.
If they don't like your system. So, in other words, they're asking if it's a money-back guarantee. I get you.
Is that what he's asking?
I think so. I don't know. But we just put that in the fine print.
Wonderful. For Michael, that's not a problem. I'm not into giving away free stuff as much as I can, but I do want to give away as much free as I can too, like today, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's been some great information here for those of you out there watching. Hopefully, you guys have picked up a few nuggets. Our time's almost gone. We need to talk a little bit more about what you're doing in Las Vegas.
Yes, so we have a Sales is Solutions workshop at the Las Vegas DJ show. And I'm going to tell you right up front, nothing happens. You can't do anything in your business until a sale is made. Selling is the root of this. And if you are looking for a way to be able to improve your skill set, if you're looking for an opportunity to be able to learn a new way to present your services, that's part of what we're going to give you at the workshop. And the best thing about it is you're going to come up with it on your own.
Yep.
And you'll get coaching on it. This isn't just me giving you, the ultimate follow-up system, that's plug and play. I'm giving you stuff to use. But the workshop is where we actually workshop through each step of that sales cycle. So we're going to workshop through how to better research your clients, how you're doing that currently, if you're doing that currently. We're going to cover exactly what you've been taught and how to approach a sales meeting is probably opposite of what you should be doing, and walk you through that as well, with how to give a proper welcome, how to discuss your and their story for maximum effectiveness. We're going to workshop through each step, their experience, their expectation, their goals. How do you get them talking? Vicky, my podcast partner, has the personalities for business book, and different personalities that we work through. And sometimes those blue greens are hard to get talking, and we'll talk about ways to do that. So each step of the sales process, we're going to workshop through together. And there's different exercises, and you're going to have 2 different clients to be able to workshop through together, both on your own, in pairs, with partners. And you'll get coaching on how you're presenting your services, how we'll role play some of those sales scenarios, and then get coaching on how to make better presentations. Because you shouldn't be practicing this on your client. You should have a forum, be able to practice it and get coaching so that it doesn't cost you money, and that this investment will actually make you money over and over and over again.
Exactly.
I know I have at least one past graduate in the chat tonight with Brian Kelm, and I'm sure Brian could speak to how it's impacted him too. So.
And Brian, that wasn't we weren't asking you to jump in and say a
No.
ton, but we would like you though to just give us
the chat again.
a 60 or 70 word essay. Mitch, if people want to find information, where can they go to check it out?
They can go to mitchtaylor.net/workshops is where they go to get more information about the workshops that I'm giving coming up. And the only workshop we have scheduled so far this year is at Mobile Beat Las Vegas. And frankly, it probably will be the only workshop I do this year. We have a few other speaking engagements this year, but probably the only workshop is going to be at Mobile Beat. So you want to join me for that. It's going to be coming up on Sunday, March 13th. It's all day, 9 a.m. to pretty much 6 p.m. We'll have an hour break for lunch. And I promise you, if you do not get your money's worth out of that workshop, I will personally refund you your money back. That does come with a money back guarantee.
March 13th, right?
Yep, March 13th.
I'm just adding the link. It was mitchtaylor.net/workshops.
Yeah, workshops. That's the link to that.
Perfect. I just put that in the description below, gang, so you guys can go. You may have to, if you're watching it live right now, when you click refresh, that's where the link will be. I put it down, and this will be separated out tomorrow. We're going to have 2 videos. We'll have the Ron Ruth video and the Mitch individually, so that way it's just a little easier for watching. And as I mentioned in the chat, this will all be up on iTunes, and it will be a podcast for folks to listen to a little later.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Okay, one last question, then we're going to have to fly. Chris, what do you have here for us?
Is going from a small coverage area to stepping up to a bigger market. Any suggestions to start with?
Oh boy, there's a show for us right there.
That's a whole show. But the first thing I would tell you, Chris, is to get out and network. Network. Go chat with local wedding planners in that market. Talk to the venues. Go darken some doors. Make yourself available. Do some research on who are the major players in that market. And take people out to lunch. Networking is probably going to be the biggest way to get your foot in the door to a bigger market as fast as you can.
For sure. Well said. And of course, we could go into more detail, and there's a lot of little aspects of it. But as we
follow-up system is digital download, by the way.
That's what's that?
The follow-up system is digital download.
Okay. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay. Mitch, we need to jump. It is 9:30. Awesome. It's time for us to go. It's 10:30 your time, but time for us to wrap things up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. If you've got any questions for Mitch, you can send an email to him at mitchtaylor@discjockeynews.com. You can get a hold of him there. Go to his website, mitchtaylor.net. You'll find contact ways there any way, shape, or form. Mitch is the guy to help you if you've got some questions. He's there for you. Mitch,
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, and we will see you at Mobile Beat here in a few weeks.
Yes, we'll see you at Mobile Beat. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.